Welcome to Scrappin with Sheri, Mother's Day edition. Now, Mother's Day is tomorrow, and when I got to sketch page 55, there could not have been a more perfect sketch to do for a Mother's Day collection. Now, I've actually done this sketch before. It came out on the virtual crop a long time ago, several years ago, and I did this particular page using this picture from my youngest son and his wife's rehearsal dinner right before their wedding. And it has all of my people in it. It has my husband, all of my kids, and my one grandchild. So I love being able to show this because this has been on a display board in my office for the last couple of years. But for Mother's Day this year, my kids decided for us to do some new family pictures. So I'm going to be making a new version of this same page to go on my display board in my office. Now, I did develop this as an 8x10. You can see it's a little bit larger, and then I cut it down as a square to make it work in this particular layout, and I love this. So let's get started, and I'll show you what I'm using for this. I'm going to be using bits and pieces. These three papers, the full-size papers, are from the denim collection. That new denim collection that came out is right up my alley because I love anything blue. I found this mat, Remember This Day with the Camera, from the Something Blue collection. These two little scraps were left from the Something Blue, and I did want to throw a little floral in there and bring in a little green. And then this strip, this border strip, is from the Welcome Home laser borders, and I happen to have a little bit of it left over as well. So this sketch to me was very, very difficult the first time I tried to do it. I took a lot of time measuring, trying to get everything just right, and really had a hard time with it. I think it's going to be a little bit easier this time around, but we're about to see. So let me slide my border off to the side. I've decided that this darker blue is going to be my background. So that will be the full background here. And I could get that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it a full-size background. And then I'm going to use this as that smaller outside piece, this as the inner piece, and then add all the details with that. So let's just get our 12-inch trimmer and cut. Now this outside border is a thin one. It's 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. So I'm just going to measure that out, 9 3/4. And I am going to try to get my paper underneath this little ledge because on one of my videos, I had a hard time getting everything straight because I kept catching my paper. 9 3/4 by 9 3/4. All right, so we've got that one. Our next one is going to be 9 1/2 by 9 1/2, and this is going to be the inner piece of that. So 9 1/2 by 9 1/2. So we've got those two, and that's already coming together really nicely. Now, here's where I have a little problem because I really like this stripe through the middle. This diagonal is a different color from these outside pieces. I want to use these two for my outside pieces, but for that diagonal through the middle, I really think I would like a piece of this brown, but these are both sheets of my brown. So I could do a couple of different things with this. And I think what I'm going to do is use these scraps that I cut off, these strips. And I'm just going to go back and put those together to make that diagonal. So let me see. I've got two full length. And our diagonal piece through the middle calls to be 3 3/4 by 9 1/2. So let me see, using my 12-inch ruler, what I've actually got here. So that is, it looks like it's almost exactly 9 1/2. 6, 7, 8, 9 1/2. So we could piece these two pieces together and then cut it down a little bit. And I think that's what we'll do. Now, you've seen me weld multiple times, so this is not going to be a new concept to you. Oh, but when I'm looking, that's not going to cover my space because I need it to cover this full space. That's 9.5, but that's not going to cover it. So we're going to have to work with this one because we need it to cover. All right, you've seen me weld before, but as a refresher on this, I'm going to use, this time I'm going to use some photo tape. I don't use that very often. The photo tape comes on a roll, and it has a cutter attached to the box right here. This is old photo tape, so I'm hoping it works. This hasn't been pulled out in many, many years. Another part of the stash I found in cleaning out at my mother-in-law's house. It's got the cutter there. This is a non-sticky piece, but it's sticky on this side. So I'm just going to run that photo tape. And I'm trying to hold these two pieces together. And I'm just going to run the photo tape right down through there. And we're about to see how well we did on that. Oh, not bad. I was reading on the blog post, and it said to kind of eyeball your angles, basically, is what it said. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm looking at the spacing here and the spacing at the top. And I want those spacings about the same. And to me, the best way to do that, this is a 12-inch strip. I'm just going to line them up top and bottom here. Now, I didn't measure side to side because it says we need a 3 3/4. So let's see what we've got there. Well, look at that. Exactly. So we can tape this down and we're ready to go. I'm going to run a little tape over my seams here just to make sure that they stay together on the ends. And I did apply that tape pretty liberally. I don't usually put that much tape. But I'm going to put a corner here and a corner at the top. And that gives me good spacing on that. And then all I'll have to do for that is go back and chop these two pieces off. I'm going to tell you, this is a lot easier than the first time around when I tried to do this page. Guess I've learned some techniques in the last couple of years. So look at that. We've got those two pieces done. But our next step is going to be to add these little pieces on there. And I need them to be, let's see, it says 1 1/4 by 4 1/2. But I think instead of worrying about that 4 1/2 necessarily, I'm going to lay these down on here. And I need to get that angle the same. I'm going to keep working on this dark blue sheet so you can see what I'm doing here. But in order to get the angle the same, I'm going to pull out that ruler one more time. And I'm just going to line this little sheet of paper, this little strip, up against the edge of that. I've got this point and this edge together. And I'm going to use my pencil to make a line there. My line is a little higher than the actual edge, so I slid it down a little bit, and I'm going to do that again. It would help if I could keep it lined up and not moving. And I'm lining the edge of my ruler up along the edge of this brown paper. Okay, I think that's going to work. We'll try it. And I'm thinking we could cut both of them at the same time. So we'll try that too. It's been funny because Creative Memories did the Earth Day sketches where they encouraged you to use scraps. And I got kind of into that, just doing some pages I needed to finish up. And I found these little scraps of this flower, and I love this flower on this paper from the Something Blue collection. So I wanted to find a way to kind of showcase those little bits I had left. All right. So we've got our 2 angles. Let's just pray that they're right. Guess what, y'all? I did them exactly backwards. How do you like that? So you just gotta love it when you mess up big right on a video where everybody can see you. And what I've run into is when I cut those angles, I flipped the paper thinking that that would make my pencil lines on the back. Well, guess what? It made the angles wrong. So I found this other little scrap I had. It's going to be big enough to do one side of this. So let's do it right this time. You know, do as I say, not as I do. So I'm going to line this up again. We're going to cut this angle the right direction, hopefully. And I am having a little bit of issue because that's going off the top of that, but I think I can fix it. So I'm just using my personal trimmer here, and I'm going to cut this on those lines I made. Now remember, this one is a little bit short, but this was all the scrap I had of that. So, you know, we'll figure out a fix for it. And then these 2 that I had cut incorrectly, I'm going to make them work because I think I can just tape those together and do it again. I can't stand not to use this blue flower, and nobody is ever going to know that I taped that together because I'm not going to tell. All right. That's not bad. So I'll try it all over again. How about it? And you can see I've got a little edge there. I'm going to trim that up in just a minute. But here I'm just going to go line there. Line this up with the brown stripe I've got going on this diagonal here. And we'll cut it again. It seems to never fail when I'm teaching my customers in person. Everything that I've tried in advance to make sure it works, I tend to mess it up somehow. That's okay. We're all human. We make mistakes. The best part is figuring out a way to fix those mistakes without losing this beautiful paper that I wanted to use all along. And look, you can't even tell the difference. All right. So let's add our brown back behind that. I'm just putting regular tape on that. And we'll center this. Now you may think, oh, the brown stripe in the middle with the brown going around the outside, that's too much. It blends in together too much, but we're going to fix that in about half a second. And because my pictures have just this casual denim-y feel, I just wanted this to be a fun page, but with a nod to the floral, because I have so much floral in my office, I wanted that to be brought out as well. And we're just going to go ahead and put this down on our background paper. This does have some lines on it, which is really nice. It's kind of helping me to line it up if those lines are straight. Okay, and then we're going to add these little pieces right back on. And I did cut mine a little wider than it suggested. So I'm just tucking them under the edge of that background sheet. And I don't know why I cut them wider, except I was working with my scraps and I just did it. Which is probably going to make this little gap over here almost hidden exactly. It's just a touch high. But you can see I've got that gap still showing. We're about to fix that as well. And here again, your ruler would probably be helpful on this if you're really OCD about getting those angles exactly right. But I'm good with that. Now, remember I told you we could cover this up, and this is how we're going to do it. We're going to add this little border stripe right there. And I'm looking at, I don't want to lose this flower here. So I'm going to use my scissors and just cut that little flower off. And then see where we are on spacing, because we could cut this at the top of those leaves. And this border only goes along that little section. It doesn't keep going. Now, I'm sure you could do a whole border if you wanted to, but here again, in an effort to use up single borders that I've got, this is the perfect opportunity. So I'm going to get my silicone mat, my repositionable tape. These laser borders are really nice. If you haven't used them, they're generally double-sided, so you've got 2 different color schemes to choose from. And just a nice accent. I love all the multicolors on it. I think that really adds a lot to it. And very different from just cutting it on your border maker system, because you do get the variety of colors here. And since I made the leaves, well, I was going to say I made the leaves going up, but they go both directions, so it doesn't really matter which way I do this. I'm going to round out that top edge just a touch, and this will be ready to go on. Now, remember I used pieces from 3 different collections here. The background, the brown, the lighter blue foreground are all from the denim collection, Denim Revival, that just came back. Beautiful collection. Because I love the blues, I just think it's one of the best collections we've had. But I also loved Something Blue, which came out as our wedding collection. But there are so many pretty embellishments in that Something Blue collection, this being one of them. Remember This Day with a camera. I mean, how generic is that? There's also a church in the embellishments that I used for some of my Easter pictures. So there are a lot of things in here that are not related to wedding per se. This little stripe of flowers came from the Something Blue. This border strip came from Welcome Home. So you can see how well Creative Memories does the collections to make them work together. And I like that about our company. Now this, I think, is going to go right down here. But we need to add the picture before we go ahead and do any embellishment. So let's see what that looks like. So here's our picture, and we've got the world's greatest photographer because she just took the picture on Thursday evening. She went ahead and sent it to me. I just printed this out on my home printer, so it's not as sharp as I would like for it to be, but I wanted to go ahead and finish this page out to show you what we're going to get. So these are all my people. These are my kids, their spouses, and my granddaughter, and my husband, of course. And I wanted to finish this page out. So I have printed on my home printer on an 8x10 piece of paper. It's a little bit smaller than that. I will have this printed through a real printer when I put it on this board. Well, I'm going to put it on my display board, but when I put it on the display board for sure, I will have it printed with a little bit more clarity. But I'm pretty happy about this picture, and we're having bunches of company tomorrow, so I'll get to show off my picture of my cute people. So I'm just trimming this down, getting the white off from my printer. And when I put it on this background page, you can tell right away it's getting lost, and I knew that was going to happen. So I went ahead and pulled this navy, and I am going to cut this down. When I get it printed through the printer, I'm probably going to end up with it a little bit larger, but I may have them printed a little bit smaller so I can go ahead and do the mat on it as well. But I do like the look of this. And don't be afraid to try new sizes of your pictures. Occasionally you'll want something a little bit different, and printing a different size will give you a lot of a lot of different looks, especially on something like this where there's only one picture. I'm just going to center that on that blue. And remember, funny I say remember because it says remember this day. I had this remember this day that I also wanted to use. And I really think I like it down here. But I'm going to matte it as well because it is getting lost on that lighter background. I'm going to have to go with my bigger piece. Navy is just a great go-to matte. And particularly with these pictures because we all wore shades of blue. I know I've mentioned it to you before, but blue is my absolute favorite color. So the kids decided to give me these pictures for Mother's Day. And funny enough, the question came up, well, what are we going to wear? And they all knew we're going to wear blue. So in doing this as an 8x10 and cutting it down a little bit, I'm still allowing the sides to show, which I really like. I wanted some of that brown to show. I've got the flowers on there that bring in a little green, a little bit of extra color. And then I've also pulled some of that color down by using this embellishment with a little bit of greenery in it as well. So we have finished this page and I'm ready for Mother's Day. This is page 55 in the sketchbook. If you are a mother, have had a mother, or a mother figure in the lives of someone else, I hope you have a really great Mother's Day tomorrow. And I hope you'll take pictures of the people that are important to you because that's what this scrapbooking thing is all about. Let's remember the good times. Let's remember the people who have been important in our lives and let's scrapbook them. And until I see you next time, happy scrapping.